Welcome to the Bleav Podcast Network SoCal Sweat. My name is Anne McDaniels, a former NFL cheerleader and product manager turned actress and model who dreams of being a UFC fighter. Meow. Learning strategies to help motivate others leads me to bring you interviews each week from a range of athletes, experts in fitness and nutrition, and so much more. Thanks for listening to Bleav, the #1 podcast for working professionals, and let's push our endorphins to higher performance through SoCal Sweat. This is your host, Anne McDaniels of SoCal Sweat. And in today's episode, we're going to be talking about the gold standard for measuring body composition and exercise science, and that is the Dexa scan. Now, Dexa stands for Dual Energy X-rays Absorbed Geometry and is a 3-compartment model that shoots low-dose radiation to detect different parts of your body. The 3 main areas are bone density, which is your bone mineral content, fat, most importantly being the visceral fat, which is on the inside of your body that we don't see, and the fat-free mass, which is your muscles, organs, and levels of water in your body. This is ideal in the medical field to help diagnose problems such as osteoporosis and, of course, the dangers of visceral fat with obesity. It's ideal for athletes to compare baseline results with levels of fitness progression. And it's now available to the public. Today, I interviewed Jason Belville of Body Spec, which is located in California, Washington, and Texas. Their scans are usually $75, but they are offering them for free during COVID with a donation. They also have a team of health coaches to break it down with all of your results so that you can track your progress and improve your health moving forward. And today we have Jason Belville of Body Spec. Good morning, Jason Belville of Body Spec, co-founder and guru of Body Spec, Dexa, and RMR scans. How are you this morning?
Great. How are you?
Good, working from home. I read somewhere that you love donuts. I've got to ask you, what is your favorite donut and where from?
Maple Bar, hands down.
Mm-hmm.
We have a spot in Seattle called Top Pot. I don't know if you've heard of it.
No, sounds good.
Anyways, that's where I get my donuts, Top Pot.
Now, do you do the donuts with like the cereal and the weird concoctions, or do you stick with the traditionals?
Just Maple Bar. I'm very simple. Maple Bar.
Easy. Krispy Kreme or no Krispy Kreme? I hate Krispy Kreme.
No.
Nope. Got to be top shot.
Top Pot.
Top pot. And are you a Seahawks or Rams fan, or neither?
I think you have to be a Seahawks fan if you live in Washington State.
Okay.
I think that's a law, actually. So.
Yes, but you still are?
Seahawks, yeah.
Wonderful. Very cool. So I was so interested in reading about Body Spec. I had known of Dexa scans. And for people that don't know, a way of measuring your fat would be just, using the calipers or the IMR infrared machines. I'm familiar with that particularly. And then, of course, the bod pods and the dunk tanks. But you go a step further. And with Dexa and RMR scans, Dexa meaning basically, what does Dexa stand for, actually?
The Dexa stands for Dual X-ray Absorbed Geometry.
Okay.
So that's kind of a fancy way of categorizing the equipment, but it's an X-ray. That's essentially what it is. So, compared to like skin fold calipers or bioelectrical impedance, I mean, there are several ways to measure body composition. All are dependent on various algorithms. But a Dexa machine, the nice thing about it is it kind of takes away the guesswork. It is an X-ray, like it's an actual measurement of tissue in your body. And so it can differentiate between all of the fat, all of the lean tissue, and the bone. And we can get into that a little bit more, but that's what makes Dexa scanners the gold standard.
Great. And then, so in layman's terms, it measures your bone, your muscle, and your skeleton, or your skeletal, or fat.
Bone, fat, muscle. Yep.
Yep. And the RMR would be the resting metabolic rate, which would be interesting for athletes to know. Like the more you're in shape, probably the slower your metabolic heart rate. So let's just say someone who is an extreme athlete could burn 2,700 calories just sitting in a chair all day, and that would be your resting, correct?
Yeah, correct. Yep. An RMR is just setting the baseline for how many calories your body requires in a given day. And it does vary, and it does depend on athletic ability. It does depend on body composition. We tend to see folks with extremely high muscle mass also have extremely high RMRs. They correlate with each other. Obviously, the more lean mass that you have, the higher energy demand on that tissue just to sustain that amount of lean mass. So yeah, that's why it all kind of synchronizes together. We want folks to, improve and focus on building lean mass, men and women, because it also supports a healthy and a high metabolic rate and just an overall healthy kind of body composition.
That's great. And you have a very impressive background. First of all, thank you for your service with the Air Force Academy. Very impressive. And so you played soccer there, and you were on the All Armed Forces soccer team. Then you went to Viterbi College, Master's School of Engineering at USC. What a fantastic pairing of your athletic career paired with your engineering smarts. Is this kind of a job that you sort of saw yourself doing in the future, pairing the two together?
Yes and no. I mean, I kind of fell into this, to be honest. One of the other co-founders, Elaine Shee, who is the husband of the other co-founder, or the wife, excuse me, of the other co-founder, Roy Shee. She was actually at UCLA with one of my classmates at the School of Anderson. She was in business school, and they had the idea using a Dexa scanner to try and mobilize it and make the technology accessible to the public. So I was kind of connected from afar at that point when they were going through the academic exercise. But when it came time to pull the trigger and start the business, I was transitioning out of the Air Force at the time, and I had a high interest in what they were doing, and obviously the technology with the mission of helping folks with their health and with their body composition. It all just made really great sense to me. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I got involved.
Oh, that's fantastic, because I had originally known about the Cooper Clinic and like what they did in Dallas for a lot of athletes to fly in. And I thought that was the only reason and the only way you could get these scans were to be through a clinic. So I think it's kind of a brilliant idea, and it really helps people get or just gain more control over their fitness goals with seeing what they actually have within their bodies. So that's really cool. So it was two women at Anderson Business School, and then you guys paired together and made it happen. And besides your clinics, you have a MOBA business. What was the importance of that? Was that for health fairs, or was that for just mobility to go to people for their privacy? How did that, did you start with that, or was there a clinic first and then the mobile business?
Yeah, we actually started with the mobile truck. We started with our first mobile truck in Los Angeles back in 2014, and it was an expensive experiment at that point. I mean, we purchased like a used airport shuttle bus with like the accordion doors, and we had it retrofitted, and we put an expensive Dexa machine in the unit, and then we just started teaming up with gyms and trainers and local facilities, and from there just kind of started building the brand. It was a new thing. I mean, the technology wasn't that well known at that point. It wasn't publicly accessible, like you said. I mean, you're familiar with one facility in Dallas. When I went to school at the Air Force Academy, we had a machine in our human performance lab, and the only other one I knew of was at the Olympic Training Center down the road in Colorado Springs. Mm-hmm. So if you weren't affiliated with one of those two organizations, you couldn't get a scan. And then if you went to a hospital to do it, you'd end up paying $200-300.
Right.
So, the idea of making this convenient, of making it a commodity, making it affordable so that folks weren't choosing between their gym membership and getting this data, all of that was really important to us. But the mobility was probably the most important in terms of access, making it accessible to folks. So yeah, so we started with the truck. We have 9 trucks now, and we have 2 facilities, one in LA and then one in San Francisco.
Oh, that's fantastic. When you said that, I would think that some gyms might offer that as part of the membership program. Would be like one or two meetings with a Dexa, with body spec Dexa scan. Have any gyms tried to do that, or is it just kind of too expensive at that point?
No. I mean, there's all sorts of creative ways that, gyms and trainers try and leverage our service to differentiate what they're doing compared to the competition. I mean, Dexa scanners offer a clear competitive advantage in terms of being able to quantify the progress that a client is making. So if you're a trainer and you want to demonstrate, and to try and recruit more clients, that your program works, and here's the data that supports that, then it's a no-brainer. So now people integrate us into their programs, and they come up with unique packages and stuff for their clients to keep them engaged throughout the process.
That's great. And that's kind of the main subject I want to get to, because this is a fitness and health podcast. I feel as if, like, a lot of trainers get frustrated because so many people will make excuses like, wow, well, I'm big boned, or I have PCOS, or every excuse in the book, or my blood type's off, so this is why I can't lose weight. So this would show them point blank that no, you're not bigger boned. You may have more bone density, but that does not affect your fat or visceral fat. And that's another thing, because people's visceral fat is the fat that is not shown. So therefore they don't know. That would be like around the heart and in those areas. And that would measure, I mean, do you color code like your actual good fat from your visceral fat? Or is it just so obvious on the scans?
Yeah, so on the scan, the unique thing about a Dexa scan is that, earlier I said kind of top level, it's giving you the breakdown of fat, muscle, and bone, but it also regionalizes the data. So I can see specifically how much fat and muscle you have in your arms, how much you have in your legs. Like, we can kind of pinpoint the areas of your body and how the composition is distributed. In addition, it does do a visceral fat measurement. So the image that you see, it is color coded to differentiate between lean and fat. And so as things are changing over time, you can kind of see that almost like a 2D heat map of how your body changes over time. But the visceral fat measurement is something unique to a Dexa scan that other technologies just don't have the ability to get accurately. And that's a critical measurement. I mean, I think it's probably the most important measurement that comes off the Dexa report, because that's actually a health indicator. I mean, the difference in, for a male athlete to be between 10% and 12%, that's interesting. And, there might be some performance tweaks and training tweaks that they're doing to try and achieve a different goal. But, the difference between a pound of visceral fat and 3 pounds of visceral fat could be a metabolic disease, or it could be a future cardiovascular issue. I mean, that's a real marker for potential health impacts. So, we encourage folks to kind of track that number over time as well.
What about?
Hey there.
You've got an email, Jason. You've got an important email.
Shut that down. My goodness.
That person wants him some Jason. Maybe it's a donut man delivering. You better go get it.
Oh.
Well, speaking of donuts, a lot of people are chronic dieters and chronic fitness people that just, they do well and then they stop, and do well and stop. Are a lot of them surprised to hear that they can no longer use these excuses? Because if they come in with, like, for example, like a big bone thing, you can show them, and then are you kind of with that trainer and like, no, this is not what it is. It's basically deficit surplus of calories and exercise, and you don't have these excuses? Or are there actual cases where, like, I have a friend who has PCOS and it's very hard for her to lose weight, and that would probably carry more body fat? How do you see that some of these actually do come into fruition, some of these quote unquote excuses?
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a really good question. And we've seen all types of scenarios. I mean, we've worked with 100,000 clients over the years. I mean, we've just done a lot of scans, and we've scanned the full spectrum of client. I mean, elite professional athletes, up to, medically supervised weight loss patients, and everyone is at kind of a different point in their journey. The limitation with the scan is that it's not diagnostic. So, I don't represent as a physician because I'm not, and neither does our team. So we're simply providing the data to kind of give that assessment, that objective assessment of tissue composition. But for other issues, that just provides more context into that person's individual health journey. And having the data is just one supporting element to try and figure out what works and what doesn't. For a client that has PCOS, I don't necessarily know like what the specific regimen should be for that person, or what considerations should be implemented in terms of their training, their nutrition, their sleep, their stress, just their overall physical health. But we need to establish a baseline on their body composition. So then they try something, and 2 months later we say, okay, what was the impact? Like, did you lose 5 pounds of fat because you tweaked X, Y, and Z? Great. If not, let's try it again, right? The idea is to like fail fast, right? Get a measurement, try something. Don't waste a year or 2 years just sitting around saying, my body can't change because of this. Figure out what works and what doesn't. So that's kind of our approach.
And that really pinpoints. Now, in your opinion, I don't know if you can even talk about this, but in the medical field, the word obesity and obese patients is actually a no-no. And BMI is also very controversial to speak about when it comes to obesity. Do you find that, what are your thoughts on that? Because you see it point blank and very clearly.
I hate BMI. That's my thought. That's it.
Okay.
That's my only thought. It's just like, it's an outdated, and it's kind of like a crude classification for people. And again, I'm not a physician, and I'm not discounting, the research and the effectiveness that BMI has had in, I guess, the medical field. But, we originally were reporting BMI, and, more than half of the clients that we were seeing were considered obese because they're athletes that are 200 pounds and 6 feet tall and 10% body fat. That's an obese individual. That's crazy to me. So I was just uncomfortable handing over a report to a professional football player and saying, hey, great job at your body fat percent, but his BMI is a little steep.
and they're ripped to shreds and they're in phenomenal shape.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. It's almost like judging someone on their SAT test. Well, they're an extremely smart, capable person, but your SAT, no. That's tough. So where would you see in the future that going? Not body mass index, but using something else. Would you just measure everything as a whole and just percentage wise and show what are the ranges of health in each area? What would be a better bet?
And how we do it.
Yes.
I mean, as it stands, and this is held true kind of over the test of time, that Dexa still is fundamentally the gold standard. And, back in the day, hydrostatic testing, the underwater weight. Have you ever done that underwater weight?
I have. Yeah. For the Vikings, we had to. Yeah.
So that's a tough test. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's able to, effectively drown themselves. But that actually was the gold standard previously. It was considered the gold standard. And so again, the Dexa technology, the equipment, and this is kind of going off on a tangent, but Dexas were originally built and designed to measure osteoporosis in women. They were designed to diagnose women with osteoporosis. I mean, that was and still is a very big issue. Bone density is a very prevalent issue. And so we just sort of repurposed the technology, right? We didn't design the Dexa machines, but we're making the technology and the functionality of those machines accessible to the public. So yeah, I mean, as long as Dexa standards are considered the gold standard, I would continue to push for people getting a Dexa scan, right? Even if you're using, a lot of clients who go to gyms, I mean, gyms have skin fold calipers, and gyms have biological impedance scales, and there's other ways to do it, and that's fine. You have your Fitbit scale, get on it every day, get your measurement and kind of like track your trends. But in terms of accuracy, you would still want to get on a Dexa scan once a quarter or once every, twice a year or whatever it may be, just to kind of gauge the accuracy of the information that you're given. So
sure. And I know the preparation because when I was a cheerleader, we had our body fats taken a lot on the IRI infrareds. And was it better to work out before or after, drink water before or after? We were always experimenting, and it seems like you had I feel like I had a higher body fat after the workout, or was it the opposite? We were always surprised by that.
Yeah. So if anything, I mean, we haven't done extensive testing on like pre-post workout.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that if I'm speculating, because again, we haven't done any of the testing, post workout being not only dehydrated, but having like your glycogen stores depleted, that would reflect in terms of a reduction in lean mass, which would probably increase your body fat percent.
Sure.
Okay, so the testing that we've been more focused on is like food intake, water intake, hydration levels. So I actually did an experiment a few years ago where I tested dry, and then I chugged a gallon of water painfully, and didn't go to the bathroom, and then measured myself right after. It all showed up as lean mass. Like that entire mass of water, which was like 8 pounds of water, it showed up as lean tissue on the scan result. So
wow. So couldn't like an MMA fighter or wrestler or someone going in for boxing and weighing in do something like that? Yeah, well, I guess it's not weight though. That would be scary.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
they could. I mean, but they're looking at weight class, and so I mean, if body fat percent becomes a qualifier for those fights, then yeah, you could potentially game it a little bit, but you have to be pretty aggressive.
So it's not sumo wrestling on that end. Yeah.
Exactly.
Very cool. Yeah, and I'm very interested in the bone density part of it. I was at the gym the other day and talking to a woman who had osteopenia, and she was heading towards osteoporosis. And for those people that don't know, again, that is just the more porous your bones are, the weaker they are, correct? And the more dense they are, the stronger. And women especially, but a lot of female athletes have this problem. Like my mom is worked out and still continues to work out sometimes twice a day, and she has pretty bad osteopenia. But what are you supposed to do? And she lifts all the time. She's just very long and lean. And quite frankly, I have gotten osteopenia as well, and I hate that. I do everything I can, and I lift all the time, but I guess I have porous bone density, and that upsets me. And then I broke these bones, so that is concerning. However, I was moving at a Mach 5 speed from the air, but did that hurt me even worse? I don't know. I hope not. So what do you advise a lot of women? Because people say, oh, drink more milk or calcium, but it really is increasing that bone density with weightlifting, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, bones respond like lean tissue responds, like muscles respond, right? They don't respond as fast, but in order to trigger the bone recruitment process, you have to stress your bones. In order to increase the size of your muscles, you have to stress them. You have to put them under tension and resistance and load, essentially. So yeah, I mean, the number one recommendation really is to engage in some type of strength training, period.
But we're doing all that, but I feel like it's going down. So that's always a concern. I'm like, well, do I have to take more supplements? I don't know. I mean, I work out twice a day, and lift, and so does she. So I don't know. I guess it'd be more.
Well, osteoporosis bone density concerns are also hereditary, right? I mean, that is a consideration for bone density. And yes, there are other factors. Vitamin D, having proper vitamin D, having enough calcium, nutrition plays a factor. I mean, all of those in conjunction, they all affect bone density. But you do have to kind of pay attention to if there's, familial issues with bone density. But, for us on our reports, we're able to at least provide kind of like a 30,000 foot view of like bone strength, right? We
Mm-hmm.
have to be really careful because again, I think I've said this 16 times earlier. I'm not a physician. So, I mean, we have to be really careful because we're not.
Sure. And
Our,
people assume you are when you have these
yeah,
scans and
and our objective
knowledge.
really is to just provide objective data. It's not to provide any type of diagnostic assessment, but in the data, if there's a reflection of like the low bone density score, we're not shy to say, hey, this is your score, and it would be prudent to speak with your physician. Have
Sure.
an additional conversation about it and kind of investigate it more, because that might warrant an actual bone density exam. So at least we
Hmm.
can kind of be like the catalyst to kind of get that process started.
That's excellent. And do you work with physicians? Do they recommend you, especially like physicians that would maybe do double gastric bypass surgery for their clients? Do they ever send them to you? And this is where probably the mobile business comes in brilliantly, would be to go to someone's house that is suffering from something like that.
Yeah, we have worked with some hospitals. I mean, we have worked with, like I said, we've worked with clients on both ends of the spectrum, and so yeah, we've affiliated with hospitals and physicians in terms of helping with like weight loss patients and getting those markers. Dexa machines were actually the iDexa machine was actually the machine used on The Biggest Loser, that
Oh,
production. So
okay.
in terms of getting body fat percent measurements and stuff. So yeah, we definitely have done that.
Excellent. And the age of COVID, I know that a lot of these require breath control, because if people are not familiar with what the scan looks like, it basically looks like a CAT scan, or doesn't it just, yeah, just, or
Just
an
like,
X-ray machine.
yeah.
But doesn't their breathing take a lot of, is that important while you're inside? And if someone's wearing a mask, would that affect it? Or if someone's claustrophobic and gets nervous, does that also affect it?
Um, Also good questions. The mask, no. We actually did a test because we wanted to dispel any rumors that like wearing a mask would affect your results. So we scanned a mask and we measured the body composition of a mask, and it was 0% body. Um, but no, I mean it's not as intensive a test as an MRI, for example. Um, because again, the scanner and the detectors, they're not, you don't have to remain perfectly breathlessly still, right? I mean,
Okay.
you are on the scanner as long as you're still, because the X-ray is profiling you inch by inch. So
Sure.
like as soon as it clears, the scanner gets down past your arms, for example, like people can relax their arms. Like you don't have to be a statue the entire
Okay.
time. The scans take maybe 5 to 8 minutes on average. So it's not that long to be still. And yeah,
Okay. So not too bad. Are you considered essential? I would think for some cases. No.
we sure are not.
Okay. But are you still doing anything? Are you still in your mobile business or working at all?
Yeah, so because we operate in Washington, California, and Texas,
Mm-hmm.
and in California we operate in Los Angeles and San Francisco, the Bay Area. So we just have to pay. My colleague Elaine, she kind of manages all the communications and the state and local guidance, even county guidance, because every area has different kind of phased approaches to reopening.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so we just have to be spot on with compliance in all those different regions and how we're operating. So we've taken the shutdown really seriously.
Sure.
We've taken the reopening even more seriously in terms of our protocols and keeping people safe, having barriers between the technician
Right.
and clients, and yeah.
Well, I help get the word out there for sure. And what are your future goals and how can people find you? I noticed that you're in Culver City, and then you're in San Francisco. I didn't realize you were also in Dallas and Seattle. That's amazing.
Yeah, yeah. Austin, we're in Austin, Texas, and
Great.
Seattle. We have multiple trucks in each region. Yeah, I mean, on our website. I mean, so every clients have to book an appointment. It's appointment only, but it's super fast and really easy on our website to find us. You can filter out where you live based on your zip code, and we're at a number of different locations. Scans are only $45, so that's I'm happy to say that price because that's our baseline price, never changes. So I would say we're the most affordable Dexa scanner in the country. Because like I said, most often they cost $150, $200.
Absolutely. That's what I always assumed. And then also you provide with extra costs, the coaching with a health coach and a possible nutritionist, but, or just someone that's certified to speak about nutrition.
Yeah. So that's actually a new service that we just launched during the shutdown, because since we weren't able to do DEXA scans any longer, we still wanted to be accessible to our existing clients. I mean, we have, tens of thousands of clients that are still looking for ways to optimize their health and improve their health. And we have a team of individuals with all sorts of backgrounds in training, exercise phys, kines, nutrition. So we kind of put our team through the ringer to come up with a pool of coaches who can walk alongside our clients on their health journeys. But no, so that our health coaching service is new. Right now during the shutdown, it's free. Like we're offering it free of charge. So any of your listeners could go to our website and sign up. It's a donation-based service right now. We just feel that's the right thing to do, like especially in this time. Sure. And then eventually we'll convert that down the road into a subscription service that people can opt into.
Oh, what a great offering! Thank you. I'd love to check that out, but it's like if I'm still healing, and because I have a bunch of metal now in my femur and in my arm, that would affect things greatly. And I just right
for the DEXA scan or the
health. It's going to show. It's going to be so strange now.
That's actually a good point because, I mean, we get folks that have different injuries and different artifacts and stuff. Chances are you'll probably always have that metal rod in your leg now, right?
Oh, no, it's permanent. Yep.
So when you get your scan, that is your new baseline with a metal rod. And we'll see it and we'll measure it. And the next time you scan any changes, it's probably not going to be the rod changing. So we could still track progress. Yeah, we'll get you in there.
Well, thank you. I'd love to. And how about just really quick question before that? We're in the land of plastic surgery in LA. How do things like implants or calf implants or things like that play a factor? Or is it still the same baseline because it's still your body, but it would be an artificial substance inside?
Yeah, exactly. It kind of depends on the material because obviously there's a difference between silicone and saline. Saline, for example, it tends to show more just like fluid. So like I gave the example earlier, that would usually impact lean mass. So yes, there is an impact, but the only difference is going to be between the baseline and when you add the artifact to your body. And then after that, you always have it. So.
Does that stick out right away? Like I see a lot of people getting I see more glute implants than anything else that are often lopsided. It's quite humorous. And a lot of the calf implants, I've seen that over and over again. Does that just stick out right away on the scan, or is it still just part of the body?
It depends again on the material. So if it's saline, we can't tell unless the client notifies us. And there's nothing about our intake forms that people have to disclose that information because it doesn't impact their ability to scan. If it's silicone, we can usually see that on the image.
Front and center, loud and clear.
shows what's going on. So
exactly. Well, that is awesome. So your future goals would just be to expand the business, come back wholeheartedly after COVID. And I do respect and appreciate all the safety measures you're taking and your free offering with a donation. That's very appreciated. So, and then I also encourage the listeners, they have a wonderful blog. Your blog is written really, really well. I don't know if you've even looked at your own website blog, but really fascinating articles. And I had a lot of interesting things on there. So
thanks.
Do you have any fears?
Yeah. I mean, we try to make it relevant and unique to things that pertain to our services, right? So the information that, your listeners or our clients couldn't get unless, they're familiar with the Dexa or had a Dexa or were interested. So yeah, we try to make it unique in that aspect. So
that's great. And then also, can you do children? Because I have a friend who was a counselor at Camp Glycogen, and that's a I think it's diabetic, but I think it's for overweight children. Would you be able to do something like go to a camp and then measure their baseline? Do you put children through?
We have scanned. We call them pediatrics. So anyone less than 20 years old is considered a pediatric. But we've scanned children. We've worked with schools and elementary schools even. Obviously, there needs to be parental consent.
Sure.
And we hope that there is a good reason for the scan to take place. But as long as we have the consent, that's not a problem. It's still safe. I mean, that's something we didn't touch on, but the scanner is an X-ray, so it's radiation, and that is one of the most common concerns that we get in the public. And the reality is that on the spectrum of X-ray radiation being irradiated, Dexa scanners are on the very, very, very low end. Getting one scan would be the equivalent of you standing outside for a day and just getting atmospheric radiation, as opposed to like a chest X-ray or
a CAT scan, something like that.
Exactly. So it's incredibly safe to do. A lot of our clients have done multiple scans over time, and we actually monitor the radiation levels. We don't have to with our machines, but we do just out of precaution, and there's no issues there. So
if someone were to be so afraid, would they be able to wear one of those gray magnetic vests that you put over them, or would that affect the scan?
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to do that because then we wouldn't be able to measure the tissue. So, if someone had true concerns about the radiation, that's not a problem. We all of those questions and concerns are discussed and disclosed well in advance of the actual scan. So there's issues, then we would just schedule or cancel the appointment. It's no problem. But that hasn't been an issue since we've operated.
Okay. Well, excellent. Congratulations on your service.
Thanks.
I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love that you started as a mobile team. I would have thought that you might want to have a mobile donut food truck trailing that. Nope. No.
That's my dream. My dream is to have a donut shop in the front of our mobile units. So you get your scan and then you walk away, you grab a maple bar. Life is good.
I think that would be something that you operationally could very well do. That's very cool. Well, thank you so much, and go Seahawks, I guess, this year. Are they going to do pretty well? What do you think of the talent level on the team?
Yeah, of course. I have to say that, right? Yeah, Seahawks, yep, in it to win it.
That's good. You're not a fair weather. Like, because I'm a Vikings fan, it's like, we get fair weather, but it's like, I'm constantly disappointed. So we do well, and it's like, anyway. Well, thank you so much. And we can, obviously, I'll put everybody towards your website and all your links, but do you have social media links as well?
Yeah, we're on Instagram at BodySpec. You can find us on Facebook as well. And then we hope that everyone that comes in for a scan, has a good experience and supports like
spreads the word.
Our Yelp following as well. So that's how we get the word out. So
well, very cool. You got to follow her here, and I'll promote you as much as I can. Thank you so very much, and thank you also for your service in the Air Force Academy and the Air Force Armed Forces. Very, very impressive.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, Jason.
All right, see ya.
And that was Jason Belleville of BodySpec. You can go onto their website anytime at bodyspec.com and make an appointment if you're in the California, Washington, or Texas area. You can also follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at BodySpec. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. You can also listen on Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, Luminary, TuneIn, or at Bleav.com. You can reach out to me for any questions or topics you'd like covered on the show at Anne McDaniels. Please stay tuned in next week to learn about the Fountain of Youth from New York City's prestigious Brookdale Retirement Community. This is your host, Anne McDaniels, and thanks for listening to SoCal Sweat.